All right, guys, today on Beer Geek Nation, we are doing something very special, very delicious, I might add. Chocolate and beer. How to start tasting it, how to go about doing your own tastings. And I'm joined by Greg of crafttastings.com. Greg, you want to give us an explanation of what you guys do?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. Yeah, I basically have a special event company, and what I do is I hold beer and chocolate pairings for people. So whether it's a corporate event or a private event in somebody's house or restaurants or breweries, I do beer and chocolate pairing. Now, that's my specialty, but I've done beer and cheese. I do some other things, but my specialty and my focus traditionally is beer and chocolate.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it for probably about the last, I'm going to say 8 or so years. Okay. Socially, I mean, just for fun and whatnot. And last year I had some significant change in my professional career, and so I'm like, I might as well legitimize this business and turn it into an actual company. And so I've been under Craft Tastings now for about a year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what are we tasting today? Let's get into it.
So basically what I brought you is 4 pretty awesome pairings, at least in my opinion anyway, to really kind of show you the beauty of how beer and chocolate truly goes together. Mm-hmm. I kind of got sick of wine getting all the accolades. Because you always hear about wine and cheese and wine and chocolate and wine tastings, and it's like, beer is so much better. Right. I mean, beer truly pairs better with wine. Actually in 2 main ways. One, because there's a broader range of styles of beer, plus the ingredients that you can put into beer. You can't have that same benefit with wine.
I mean, even looking at what the lineup here, you go from light to darker, you've got orange. I mean,
it's beautiful.
And there's bacon.
Yes.
I'll let you explain now.
But the other primary reason why beer pairs better with food and with things in general is carbonation. So the carbonation actually gives you a physical scrubbing almost of your tongue, where wine doesn't have that carbonation, so it doesn't pair as well in terms of blending together. And so that carbonation really actually helps pull some of the fats off your tongue and the oils, and gives you that true blending of taste. Right. So anyway, so enough talking. Let's kind of jump in here what we got. So the first pairing that I have, Chris, is the Amagang Wit, which is just a wonderful wheat ale that has some orange peel in it. I believe there's also a little bit of coriander, so nice, light, refreshing beer. Absolutely. And what we have it paired with is a brand that most people should know about, but it's Lindt Intense Orange. This is a darker chocolate, not on the high end, but it's a darker chocolate, and it also has some orange zest in there. And normally, you don't want to pair like to like, because that's easy way out. Right. But in this case, it's a pretty awesome experience with what you get. Now, before we actually go into the tasting, let me kind of just describe the best way to do it here. Yep. So basically, you want to take a sip of the beer and just get a taste of the beer by itself. Okay, well, this is what the beer tastes like, so let's just do that. All right, so it gives you an idea what the beer is by itself. Right. And then the next step is to take a piece of the chocolate, bite it off. Don't take it. It only takes a little bit, by the way, so don't put the whole chunk in your mouth. Right. Chew it and coat your entire mouth with the chocolate. So let it melt and coat the entire inside of your mouth with the chocolate. Okay. Before all that chocolate flavor is gone and you swallow it all, throw the beer back on top of it, and that gives you the combination of the flavors, and that's when all the magic happens.
All right. Oh, wow.
You got it.
That's crazy. So much orange. The orange just explodes. I mean, it tastes like...
Yeah, like I said, normally we don't like to put like with like, because again, that's it's an easy way out. But in this case, it is literally like an orange explosion in your mouth.
It amplifies it, I mean, exponentially. It's
crazy. And so this is one that I usually like to start with. Number one, because it's a lighter beer. And so if I'm doing a tasting with someone that isn't as much into craft beer, it's a good starter beer. It's lighter. It's usually more adaptable to the average beer drinker.
And I think that's one where people are like, oh, beer and chocolate, and they get that and they're like, oh, okay.
Right.
Like, all right.
Like that's why I start with that one, because you completely it explodes in your mouth.
Wow.
And so watching your reaction, I know that you got it. And typically when I do this event, I can see people like, there's a little jump or there's a little reaction like, oh, wow, I know what you mean. Yeah. And with these tastings, it's funny because people give me that squirrely eye, like, beer and chocolate? Like, really? But once you do it, just like you experienced it, then you're like, I get it now. Yeah. Like, I totally get it.
All right, guys, so we're back, and we're doing the next pairing, if you want to tell us what that one is.
Yeah, so what we have for the next pairing, Chris, is Boxcar Mango Ginger IPA. And Boxcar is actually out of Westchester.
Okay.
Tiny little brewery in Westchester, but it's putting out some good stuff. So it's nice to see small breweries like that coming out and producing some good beer. And again, we have their Boxcar Mango Ginger IPA. So paired with that, we have what's called Vosges. It's Moe's Milk Bar that has hickory smoked uncured bacon and alderwood smoked salt.
Oh.
So pretty much this is amazing by itself. This is just absolutely an unbelievable chocolate, and people kind of give a weird look of like, really, I love bacon, but in a chocolate bar, that just totally gives you that sweet, salty combo.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely delicious. So again, we got the Mango Ginger IPA from Boxcar, and we got the Vosges Milk Chocolate Bacon Bar. And so let's just give a sip of the beer first. Oh, so good. Like I said, by itself, it's just an amazing chocolate by itself.
That's not right. You know what I get in that? Mint. I get a lot of mint that comes out of it.
Wow,
I don't know what it is, but that was the first thing that came to my mind was mint, like a mint chocolate
Okay.
type of flavor.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. So I'm going to have to, like I said, try it again to get that. Because the cool part about tastings is it's subjective.
Right,
Like
right.
everybody's it's taste. We're talking about flavor here. So everybody gets something a little bit different. And to that point, it was interesting. I was doing a tasting one time, and it was a stout. It was all dark chocolate. It was all earthy stuff. And the guy said, "I taste lime."
Yeah.
And I kind of turned around and walked away and kind of giggled at myself, like, really, taste lime? Went back and tried it. Sure enough, but it was that quick.
Right.
But there was lime in there. So you just never know what you're going to taste in some of these. So
Now, what do you get out of it? I mean,
so I get kind of like a campfire-y, smoky, almost like a s'more in a way. Although there's not really salt in s'mores, but I get that kind of smoky, campfire-y, earthy taste out of it. Yeah, I think it. There's some general rules with pairing beer and chocolate, but like anything else, it really is. There's a good bit of trial and error involved in figuring stuff out. So, an IPA type beer, something with hops, you've got to have something that kind of dampens the hops a little bit, because otherwise all you're going to taste is hop. And so the balance of this is, and what we try to go for is 1 + 1 = 3. So the taste of the beer plus the taste of the chocolate should give you, in the case when we talked about the mint, should give you flavors that just you wouldn't expect out of the two individually. But typically lighter beers, saisons or wheat beers or some IPAs are best paired with milk chocolates.
Okay.
Because what that does, it helps the fats of the cocoa butter and the other parts of that milk chocolate help kind of dampen the hops.
Okay.
And balances pretty well. Because if you try and do something too dark, all you're going to taste is the dark chocolate.
Right.
Now, when you get to some of the heavier beers, like we're going to come up with, like the next pairing, stouts, porters, best pair with a darker chocolate because it balances well, right. And it's on the same playing field. Because otherwise, if you do a milk chocolate with a darker, heavier beer, all you're going to taste is the beer.
Right.
So that balance of trying to figure out what's so they can play together in the same sandbox, should we say? So.
All right, guys, so we're back going on to the next pairing, and like you said, we're getting into the darker chocolates, the bigger, kind of beefier beers. I'll let you...
Yeah, so the next one we have is what a commonly known beer, the Dogfish Head Indian Brown Ale. Pretty much available anywhere you go. Right. And the cool part about doing these tastings as well is you may say, well, I've had that Dogfish Head Brown a million times. Like, I've already had it, can't be that good. But when you do it with a pairing, it's almost like tasting the beer again for the first time.
Right.
Because when you match it with a chocolate, the flavors are just so different that even though you've already had a beer by itself, having it with a chocolate's a different experience, which is the fun part about this. Because a lot of times people say, oh, I've had it. And then they eat it with a chocolate, like, wow, that was really good. Because really the goal in a tasting like this, and I think you had it with the first pairing, Chris, was I want to give everybody a mouthgasm. Right. That is the goal, so that you're like, you know it when you get it.
Right, right.
So when you look at the reaction for the first one, you're like, oh, that's the mouthgasm. You got it. That's when you know that the pairing worked out pretty well. So with the Dogfish Head Indian Brown, what we have here, and I don't have a brand for it, or a box for it, but it's Misi Candies, M-I-E-S-S-E. Misi Candies is a small, awesome artisanal shop in downtown Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Okay. They do have a website, and I believe you can order it online as well. So if you don't live in the area, then you can still get a hold of it. But this is their dark chocolate coffee cluster. Oh, wow. So this is a higher end dark chocolate that's about 70% cacao, and all that simply means is when you see that percent number for a chocolate, it's what percent of the cocoa bean solid is in the bar.
Okay.
So the higher the number, the darker the chocolate, the less the other stuff is put in there. Cocoa butter, sugar, whatever that may be.
Gotcha.
And that's why it's more bitter, because you have a lot less of that other stuff in it. So this is around 70%, and it is using Tanzanian peaberry coffee beans, crushed up in the chocolate. So you've got this awesome kind of bitter coffee flavor with a nice bitter chocolate that just goes amazingly well with the Dogfish Brown.
I actually brewed a stout with that particular brand.
Oh, did you really?
The coffee bean,
It's very delicious, and like I said, this by itself is also just really awesome. So again, we got the Dogfish Head Brown.
Okay.
And I think there's some real subtle notes of coffee in the beer itself.
Definitely. Yep.
And then this kind of amplifies it, but
Wow.
it pulls the bitterness and the hop bitterness out of the beer.
Very much so.
When you pair the two together.
And on the back, I get more of it's not this chocolate, but it's a chocolate, that roasted roasted barley type of flavor.
Right. Yeah, this is just a great. I call this a good earthy pairing. Just really good, kind of dark flavors and some nice burnt in a good way from the coffee beans and the dark chocolate.
All right, guys, so we're back. We're on our final chocolate and beer pairing, and it looks like it's a local favorite for me. If you want to take
Yes,
it away.
it is. This is. I would say this is not to prejudge or give you prejudgment, but this is my absolute favorite pairing. And of all the tastings that I've done, this hands down has been the most favorite pairing that we've done.
Oh, wow.
And so we're using good old Troegs Mad Elf, brewed right here in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or right outside of here in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is their holiday beer. That's this Belgian strong dark ale, I believe, with honey and cherries. Again, a personal favorite of mine as well. And what's interesting is this wins the most favorite pairing almost every time we do it. Yet this beer is so polarizing in a way, because it's alcohol-y, it's very flavorful, and for maybe a non-beer drinker can be
A little bit
intimidating,
much.
and it can be a little bit much. Yet when you pair it with a chocolate, it's a hands down favorite. It's an amazing pairing.
Tames the beast.
It really is. And so what we got the Mad Elf with is good old Hershey's Special Dark. Nothing crazy, no bacon in it, no coffee in it, but just straight up awesome Hershey's Special Dark. And really, this is kind of like the gateway chocolate to getting into dark chocolate, because it's really on the lighter side of dark chocolate. They say it's the dark chocolate for milk chocolate lovers, because it's that transition. It's the tweener chocolate, as I like to say. But
So it's like the blue moon of chocolate.
that's a valid statement. Yeah, I think that'd work out all right. But again, we just have the Mad Elf with just plain old Hershey's Special Dark, and I'll let you judge if you think you like it. So
It's a cherry cordial.
that's exactly what
It
it
is
is.
a cherry cordial. I mean,
I think you just had a mouthgasm.
yeah, it's those chocolate covered cherries with that cherry fluid inside. I mean, that's
Yes.
exactly what it is. Wow. And you're right, that beer just kind of disappears.
It just
the whole, what is it, 11%, I think?
yeah. I mean, the heat of the beer just completely goes away.
Right.
You still get the flavor, you still get the cherries, and then the chocolate adds this amazing complement to the
Yeah.
beer that just it's unreal. And some people say that they feel like there's a physical change in their mouth, almost like they're eating a dessert or eating like something physically changes in your mouth. If that makes sense.
I mean, because when you have one of those cherry cordials, you kind of eat it and it just kind of like bursts open,
Right.
and that's almost the experience you get. I mean,
There's something going on.
like mentally you kind of access this. Oh, I'm eating candy,
Right.
rather than drinking beer and chocolate. Wow.
That's the beauty of what this is.
Right.
The research and development that I do, that's awesome. I mean, it's fun to just, when we go to a tasting, I tell people, leave some beer so that you can try beer number 4 and chocolate number 1, or
Right.
and just, because I've had some of the best pairings that I've gotten were from people that are experimenting and tasting. They're like, hey, by the way, I tried number 4 with number 2, and I'm like, okay, let me try that. I'm like, wow, it's really good.
Cool.
Because again, it's subjective, but it's a lot of fun to experiment too.
All right, so we just wrapped up our beer and chocolate pairing. Again, crafttastings.com if you're interested, and people can go on there and, I guess, email you and have you.
Yeah, my contact info is there, and right now most of my content is through Facebook.
Okay.
But my Facebook link is on my my website as I'm getting that built up. But yeah, all my information's out there. So I would say there's the one tip would be, again, if you're gonna have a lighter beer or an IPA or a saison or a wheat beer, go with a lighter or a milk chocolate.
Okay.
That's typically going to be the best pairing there. And as you go with the higher end beers, stouts, porters, things that have a lot of flavor, or even like a Belgian triple or a Belgian quad or Belgian strong dark ale like we had with Mad Elf, you're going to need something that's going to have a little bit more body. You're going to want to go with a little bit more of a darker chocolate to be able to stand up to the heavy flavor and the power of those beers as well. So that's kind of the first general rule to follow. Again, it's every beer and every chocolate's so different, so you're going to have stuff to experiment with a little bit. I'd say the second thing is, if you'd like to try and do something like this on your own, start with a beer first. So kind of pick the beers that you want to use. So if you're gonna, and try to do a range if you can, if you're gonna do this for the first time. So pick something light, pick something a little more medium body, and then something on a brown ale or a stout or a porter. Start with the beers that you want.
Okay.
And then go get some different chocolates locally or wherever or online or whatever, and then try to figure out what chocolate works best with the beer that you want to use.
So almost work backwards.
Yeah, it can get a little bit overwhelming if you try to do it the other way around, and it's a lot easier to start with a beer and then try little bits of chocolate than to have one piece of chocolate and then go out and get 50 different kind of beers to find out what beer works with that chocolate.
Right.
So fiscally, it makes more sense to do it that way too. To just start with the beer that you want, pick the beer, and then find the chocolate that goes with it. And I'd say the last thing is, and what I tell people all the time is keep an open mind. You really have to keep an open mind, because if you have somebody that comes at, I love people that come to me that say they're beer haters or they don't enjoy beer, because I will pretty much say, if you keep an open mind, I can almost guarantee at the end of this tasting, you're going to walk away saying that was really awesome. And I've yet to have somebody that doesn't do that. Right. So the third thing really is just keep an open mind. I think people think that, dark chocolate is best paired with some of these beers, and they'll go out and get a bunch of dark chocolates, and what happens is all you're going to taste is a chocolate. Right. And the milk chocolates really, like I said in the first one, there's a balance between the milk chocolates and the lighter beers and dark chocolates with darker beers. But I think what happens is there's just a notion that the darker chocolates are better when pairing with beer. So I'd say, again, just make sure that you balance it well with the lighter ones and the darker ones. So
very cool. All right, guys. So there it is, chocolate
and
beer. Go try it. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I was one of those people, dark chocolate, dark beer. Now it's completely blown my mind. So awesome stuff. Again, crafttastings.com.
Yep. Thank you,
Greg. And remember, guys, life's too short. Drink amazing beers.
Cheers.